All right, so let's dive into this whole 5 a.m. mindset thing. It's been kind of blowing up online. We're looking at that Growth Paradox YouTube channel and how they present it. I bet some of you out there are like, ugh, another productivity hack. But stick with us on this one. I think there's some interesting stuff here, even if you're, not exactly a morning person. What do you think?
Yeah, I think with these kinds of trends, it's always good to, be curious. Like, is it really all just about getting out of bed early?
Yeah.
Or is there something like deeper going on?
Right, because let's be honest, just setting an alarm doesn't magically make you like super productive. The video talks about being intentional a lot, which sounds good, but what does that actually look like, in real life?
Well, think about it this way. Instead of just letting the day, like, happen to you, you're taking charge,
Hmm.
shaping it, it's all about making what you do match up with your goals, right,
Yeah.
for when you wake up. How do you think that could apply to, like, something you're working on right now?
Okay, I see what you're getting at. Like, say I'm trying to finish this big project, but I keep getting distracted. Maybe that quiet time before everyone else is up, that's my chance to really focus. No distractions.
Exactly. That's one of the main things the video highlights. Having time for focused work.
Hmm.
Imagine having that space, totally uninterrupted, to just dig into your most important stuff before all the demands of the day start piling on.
Yeah, they also talk about building discipline. And honestly, I could use a bit more of that, haha. But how does just waking up early make you more disciplined in other parts of life?
It's about building a habit, a good one at that. Think of it like working a muscle. The more you
Yeah.
practice waking up at a certain time and actually doing what you planned, the stronger that discipline muscle gets, so to
Yeah.
speak.
So it's not just about the early morning itself, it's more about like making a commitment and sticking to it. And then that kind of spills over into other areas.
Precisely. And there's research that shows this too. Like, studies have found that even small acts of self-discipline can create this ripple effect, leading to improvements in willpower, focus, even how you handle stress.
Right. It's like you're proving to yourself that you can follow through,
Hmm.
which makes you more confident to tackle other tough stuff. But
Right.
the video also mentions being less stressed, which seems a little weird. If I'm not getting enough sleep, wouldn't I actually be more stressed?
Well, that's where the whole intentionality thing comes in. If you're waking up early and immediately jumping into a crazy routine, yeah, that'll probably backfire. But imagine using that extra time for things that are like calming, meditation, writing in a journal, or just enjoying a quiet cup of coffee.
Okay, so it's about making space for activities that help you like center yourself and get ready for the day instead of just adding more to-dos to your morning. I can see how that could actually make you less stressed, not more, like I was saying.
That's it. It's all about designing a morning that sets you up for a good day, not just squeezing in more busy work.
Okay, but let's be real for a sec. Not everyone's like wired to be a morning person, right? What about people who are more productive later in the day? Is this whole 5 a.m. thing even, possible for them?
Yeah, that's where things can get a bit tricky. We got to remember that our bodies have these natural rhythms, they call them chronotypes, that kind of control your energy levels throughout the day.
So if you're naturally a night owl, trying to force yourself into a 5 a.m. schedule could actually like backfire.
Totally. You might end up sacrificing sleep, which is,
Yeah.
super important for how well your brain works, your mood, your overall health, all that.
Yeah, that makes sense. The video mentions starting slow and gradually adjusting your wake up time. But it doesn't really get into the science of sleep or how different chronotypes might need like different approaches.
Right. And it's not just about when you wake up either. It's also about how you structure your whole day to match up with, like, when you naturally have the most and least energy.
Yeah. So instead of being super strict about a specific time, maybe the takeaway is to be more aware of our own energy patterns and then like plan our days around that.
You got it. It's all about finding what works best for you, whether that's waking up a bit earlier to get some quiet time or scheduling your toughest tasks for when you're naturally more alert.
And even if the whole like waking up at 5 a.m. thing isn't realistic for everyone, there are still some good lessons to be learned here, right?
Absolutely. The real value is in understanding those core principles. Being intentional with your time, proactively designing your day, and making sure your actions line up with your goals. Those are things that can benefit anyone, no matter what their chronotype is or when they like to wake up.
Glad you brought that up because I was starting to wonder if the whole 5 a.m. thing was getting a little, distracting. From the bigger picture, I mean. It's easy to get caught up in their hype of a specific routine without really getting the why behind it.
That's such a key point. It's easy to fall into that trap of thinking, if I just do exactly what this successful person does, I'll get the same results. But what works for one person might not work for another. It's all about understanding the principles and then, like, adapting them to your needs and goals.
Okay, so instead of obsessing over the clock, maybe the question is, what does owning my day look like for me? How can I create a routine, whether it starts at 5 a.m. or 8 a.m., that helps me feel energized, focused, and like I'm actually moving towards my goals?
That's the heart of it. It's about self-awareness, experimentation, and finding what truly works for you. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. You might need to tweak things over time as your life changes and your priorities shift.
You mentioned making sure your actions line up with your goals. The video talks a lot about using that early morning time for things like meditation, exercise, or creative work. But what if my goals are more focused on, say, my career or spending more time with my family? How does that fit into the 5 a.m. framework?
That's where you got to go beyond the specific activities and think about the intention behind them. For example, if you want to get ahead in your career, maybe that early morning time could be for professional development, networking, or strategic planning.
So it's not about cramming specific activities into your morning, but rather finding ways to use that time to, actually make progress towards your goals, whatever they might be.
Exactly. It's about being intentional and making sure what you do matches up with what you want, whether that's in your work life, your personal life, or any other area that's important to you.
The video also talks about discipline and willpower a lot. But what about motivation? Let's be honest, even if I manage to drag myself out of bed early for a few days, how do I stay motivated to keep doing it, especially when it's, cold and dark outside?
Uh, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Motivation can be kind of like flaky. Some days you wake up feeling inspired. Other days you just want to hit snooze.
So relying just on motivation might not be the best strategy, huh?
Exactly. The video actually makes the distinction between motivation and mindset. Motivation comes and goes, but mindset is more like long-lasting. It's about building a belief system that supports your goals and actions.
So it's like not about waiting for that motivation to hit you, but more about building that mindset that makes those early mornings happen, even when it's tough.
Exactly. Think of it like the sun, it rises every day no matter what. It doesn't need permission or motivation, it just does its thing. This 5 a.m. mindset is kind of like that. It encourages you to go after your goals with that same consistency and dedication.
I like that. The sun analogy, it takes the pressure off of feeling like you got to be super motivated all the time. And it's more about like building that consistent commitment.
Right. It becomes less about willpower and more about setting up a system that helps you reach your goals. And over time, those consistent actions, they start to build momentum. Each early morning builds on the last one, making it easier to stick with the habit. And then you actually start experiencing those benefits we talked about.
Yeah, it's like a positive feedback loop. The more you show up for yourself, the more confident and motivated you become. And that makes it even easier to keep showing up.
Exactly. And even if you don't literally wake up at 5 a.m., that principle of consistency, it works for any goal you're working towards, whether it's setting aside a specific time each day for a project, exercising regularly, or anything else. That consistent effort, that's what really makes a difference.
So this whole 5 a.m. mindset thing, from the video, it's more like a metaphor then for taking control of your day and like making sure what you do matches what you want out of life.
I think that's a great way to put it. It's about taking those core ideas,
Mm.
being intentional, being proactive, being consistent, and then using them in a way that works for you, whether it's through early mornings or find other times in your day to really focus.
What I'm taking away from this is that it's not about trying to find that one perfect routine. It's more about experimenting and discovering what helps me feel the most energized, focused, and, like I'm on the right track with my goals.
And that's the most important thing for our listeners to remember, I think. It's about self-discovery and finding what truly works for you.
So to wrap things up, if our listeners are interested in trying this whole 5 a.m. mindset thing out, what should they do?
Well, I'd say start by thinking about your own goals and how having more intentional, focused time in your day could help you achieve them. Maybe it is an early morning routine, or maybe it's something totally different. The key is to try things out. Be patient with yourself and find what feels good and sustainable for you.
This has been a really cool deep dive into the 5 a.m. mindset. Thanks for sharing your insights with us.
It was my pleasure.
And to all of you listening out there, we hope this has given you some stuff to think about as you figure out your own path to productivity and, living a fulfilling life. Until next time, keep learning, keep experimenting, and keep diving deep.